There are moments in life that make you pause and ask whether the person standing before you is truly the one who fits. That question is not only for romantic love, but for all deep connections, from a kindred friend, a mentor, a partner on the path, to someone who steps into your life at the right time as if fate had arranged it. But how do you recognize what is genuine harmony and what is a passing mirage? Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst, devoted his life to studying the unconscious and the way it quietly guides our relationships. He believed nothing is accidental. The people who appear in your life are not the result of chance, but a reflection of inner movements you may not yet have recognized. Have you ever met someone you simply could not explain? Why you felt so close to them? Not because they spoke perfect words or acted flawlessly, but because the energy they radiated felt as if it had touched a very deep part within you. For Carl Jung, that is the expression of synchronicity, the moment when your inner world and the outer environment become one. And the universe gently whispers, "This person has a reason to appear in your life." However, not every powerful connection is real, and not everyone who stirs you is meant for you. That is why understanding the unconscious is so essential. Jung believes relationships are mirrors reflecting our inner world. If you continually find yourself in wounding relationships, full of conflict and a sense of lack, then that is not mere misfortune, but an inner reminder that it's time to look again. That perhaps you are allowing, even attracting, those connections from a part of your soul that has not yet been healed. And when someone truly right appears, you will know, not through rational lists or conditions, but by a quiet feeling in the heart. No more internal tug of war, no more pressure to become someone else. In such a relationship, you don't have to hide yourself. You don't have to strain to be loved. You don't have to contort yourself to fit expectations. Everything becomes as natural as breath. That person helps you feel seen, heard, understood. Not because they worship you, but because their very presence is the result of the harmony between you and your authentic self. Jung spoke of individuation, the journey each person must take to return to themselves, moving beyond masks and the demands of the outer world. When you are on that journey, you no longer need to search for anyone. The right people will naturally appear, because by then you have enough clarity to recognize them, and more importantly, enough courage to let go of relationships that no longer fit, even if they were once so familiar. Try pausing and asking yourself how many times you've clung to a relationship when deep down you knew it was no longer good for you. Relationships where conflict has become a habit, where you struggle to receive even a little care, and where simply living as your true self becomes something unacceptable. But that does not necessarily mean the other person is bad or that you are at fault. Sometimes it is only a subtle misalignment, a gap between your true self and the model that relationship silently demands you become. Before we continue, I want to share briefly that my new book is now released. It contains guidance, tools, and deep perspectives to untangle emotional knots and build a durable love with yourself. The link is placed in the description and the pinned comment. If you need to learn more, now let's return. Carl Jung reminds us that the unconscious always moves toward balance. If you immerse yourself in relationships that drain you, there will come a time when your body and mind can no longer remain silent. The smoldering anxieties, the depletion of life's inspiration, or even physical symptoms that seem baseless, insomnia, aches that persist, chronic fatigue, none of these are random. They are the urgent voice of the self, a plea that it's time to change something. And thus, when someone truly fits you, you will sense it. Not because the relationship is always peaceful, without disagreement or challenge, but because their presence does not make you feel trapped in an endless war. You will feel something deeper than that. A lightness in the soul, a sense of safety, a space where you can belong without sacrificing yourself to be worthy of love. That is how you know. And this is also what Jung regarded as core to emotional health and harmony. He believed true connection with another occurs when our souls recognize one another. It may sound mystical, but it is profoundly reasonable. Throughout life's journey, we unknowingly carry wounds, lessons, and unmet longings. And in the unconscious, we seek in others not to patch our lack, but to help us see ourselves more clearly, to gradually mend the parts of us that have been hurt. When someone steps into your life and awakens in you the desire to grow, the inspiration to expand, to live in accord with your truest nature, rather than forcing you to shrink to fit a narrow mold, this is not just a meeting. It is the sign of something meaningful unfolding. Yet that does not mean this person will remain forever. Some connections shape a segment of the journey and then diverge onto their own paths. However, during the time of their presence, that presence leaves its mark, not by words, but by how they make you feel. About yourself, about what is awakening in you, about potential you once forgot. Conversely, if you find yourself repeatedly in relationships where you must prove your worth, where fear of abandonment and rejection governs your every move, then it is time to stop and ask honestly, what part of me is still longing to be healed? Am I choosing this relationship from self-love or from a deep fear of loneliness? Jung once said that loneliness is not as terrifying as we think. On the contrary, it is a sacred space where we can meet ourselves again. No more running, no more trying to fill anything. And precisely in the moment you stop seeking someone to fill the inner void, you begin to attract the most authentic relationships. Not because you need each other to be complete, but because both of you are already whole and free. The secret has never been in finding the right person. The real secret is becoming your truest self. Because when you live authentically, when you walk with clarity and unconditional self-respect, the right people arrive without your having to strain to keep them, without your needing to prove anything, without persuading anyone that you are worthy of love. You are always worthy. And that truth is what makes you magnetic. If you have ever met someone at precisely the moment you needed them most, someone who brought clarity, peace, or even a necessary challenge to help you mature, do not take that lightly. Life always sends signals through strange coincidences, through moments of synchronicity that, if we listen, reveal we are being guided. But to recognize it, you must turn inward, learn to converse with yourself, identify the patterns you repeat in love, and most importantly, have the courage to let go of what no longer fits. Because only when you stop clinging to the old can what is new, true, and healing enter. Carl Jung once taught that the outer world in which we live is in fact only a mirror reflecting our inner world. If you long to attract a relationship of true meaning, the first thing to do is not to find someone to fill a void, but to become the one who fits yourself. For the relationships we go through are never random. To Jung, everything that happens out there, the people we meet, the experiences we live, are living expressions of the processes taking place in the soul. Aspects we have not been brave enough to face, not wise enough to accept, or not awake enough to transform. If you continually fall into relationships that make you anxious, insecure, or empty, it is not because of fate's push or a streak of bad luck, but because somewhere in your mind, an unhealed part is quietly choosing similar experiences to confirm what it believes to be true. If deep inside you feel unworthy of love, you are likely to draw to yourself those who reinforce that belief. Not because they are cruel, but because your unconscious is trying to prove what it already assumes is right. The wonderful thing is that you can break this cycle by beginning with awareness. When you are clear-eyed enough to observe, to see the patterns in your relationships, to understand that the people you are connecting with reflect your deep inner beliefs, you simultaneously reclaim the power to change the entire journey. You will no longer seek love from lack, but from fullness. No longer love to fill a void, but to share the love that has always dwelled in your heart. And when you live from that place, free of fear, whole, and peaceful, the people you attract will come from that same level of energy, gentle, profound, and healthy. So ask yourself, am I choosing love from wholeness or from a fear of being left behind? because that answer will quietly determine the quality of every relationship you experience from this moment on. Jung called this projection, the phenomenon whereby, when we are not conscious of a part of ourselves, we unconsciously see it in others. You may have been in a relationship where you felt unappreciated, where you had to strive endlessly for acknowledgement, where you always felt belittled or invisible. That is a truly painful feeling. But if you are brave enough to step back and look with honest eyes, you may realize, am I myself failing to appreciate me enough? Am I, deep down, the first to deny my own value? The unconscious operates in a very quiet, even mysterious way, yet it always has a clear purpose: to show you what needs to be integrated, what needs to be healed, so you can be more whole. If you have gone through relationships that left you feeling abandoned or forgotten, or forced to struggle just to receive care, then ask yourself, have I learned at some point that love must be traded for, that I must try my hardest to be accepted rather than simply be myself? Perhaps at some time in the past, you learned that mistaken lesson, but you do not have to carry it forever. Now is the time to release the old and choose again, this time from deeper self-love and self-understanding than ever before. When someone is truly meant for you, you will feel it, not through florid words or fleeting gestures, but through a quiet peace within. There will no longer be invisible battles to prove your worth. No more obsession with proving that you love enough, are loyal enough, or important enough. That connection will not come from overexertion, nor from a secret competition to be seen or loved. Instead, it will be a sincere exchange in which both mirror one another, accept both light and shadow, and naturally support each other's growth without bondage. But to arrive there, you must begin by observing yourself, observing the patterns you have repeated in love. Throughout this time, what kinds of relationships have you attracted? What familiar feelings keep returning? What cycles do you find yourself entering and leaving, as though living the same story with different faces? If so, that does not mean you are bound by fate. On the contrary, it signals that your unconscious is trying to tell you something, a lesson, a blind spot, a part yet to be healed that you need to face. Jung once said that only when you make the unconscious conscious will it stop directing your life. Otherwise, you will continue to call it fate. You will see yourself repeating the same pattern, falling into situations that seem inescapable, unaware that you always have the power to choose again and walk another way. Imagine you are standing before two doors, one leading to the familiar road you have taken many times, where everything is predictable, though full of hurt. The other opens to the unknown, where there is unease but also hope and possibility. Most people choose the first path because the familiar often comes with a false sense of safety. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of losing control. These are the greatest barriers between you and a healthier, happier reality. But if you truly desire a relationship that brings peace and freedom, you must have the courage to step through the second door. You cannot remain still and hope something changes while inside you cling to the same old beliefs. You cannot yearn for pure love if parts of you still have not learned to receive it. Jung once said that to meet the right person, you must become the kind of person who can attract that relationship. And that does not come from luck. It comes from a courageous inner journey in which you dare to face the shadows that have kept you reliving the same script again and again. When you have the courage to illuminate those places, you will no longer seek love as salvation, but begin to share love as a natural expression of who you are. Give yourself a moment to pause. Set aside the noise and think about all the relationships that have touched you, the connections that left a mark, sweet or painful. Think about the patterns that repeat without end, the feelings that return like a familiar song, and then ask, what is the hidden message behind it all? Is there a part of you still trying to heal itself through attachment to another? For this is the crucial key many overlook. No one can heal you. No one can fill the gaps you have not been brave enough to face. No one can give you what you have never given yourself: understanding, respect, or unconditional love. When the right person enters your life, you will know, not because they are perfect, nor because the relationship has no conflict, but because their presence does not bring chaos or unnecessary harm. They do not make you strain to be accepted or force you to compromise yourself to maintain love. It will be a gentle connection, a welcoming space, where you are encouraged to grow rather than destroyed in the process. They make you feel safe to expand, not frightened into shrinking. But to recognize them when they appear, you must be honest with yourself. Are you choosing from wholeness or from fear of abandonment? From a sense of lack or from a craving to be validated by someone out there? Carl Jung once said the journey to true love does not begin with seeking another, but with returning to yourself. Every relationship in your life, whether positive or negative, faithfully reflects the relationship you have with yourself. When you truly understand, love, and accept yourself, the right connections will appear naturally, without forcing, without clinging, without needing to prove. Therefore, if you have ever asked how to know whether someone truly fits you, the better question is, am I living true to myself? Only when you live with clarity, steadiness, and inner peace can you discern what out there truly resonates with you and what is a mirage conjured by unmet desires that haven't been heard. One thing many misunderstand about love is that relationships do not exist to fill our inner emptiness. They are simply precise mirrors of what we carry inside. Carl Jung once said, "The outer world is only an extension of the inner world." So if you want to know whether someone is right for you, do not rush to look at them. Look at yourself. Ask, what am I truly seeking? You may have met someone who stepped into your life as if the universe had arranged it. Right time, right feeling, right need. They brought you a sense of peace, as if they had all the answers you sought. But as time passes, you begin to notice changes. What you had idealized begins to crack. You feel something no longer fits, a vague but persistent feeling, as if your mind wants to believe, but your heart sounds the alarm and you ignore it because you do not want to lose that connection. Yet right in that moment, intuition speaks. It whispers something very real. The question is, are you listening? Jung emphasized that intuition is not a hazy feeling, but a powerful guiding force from the unconscious, where deep understanding resides beyond ordinary logic. The rational mind can deceive you, can conjure enough reasons to cling to something that no longer fits because you do not want to face the truth. But intuition is different. It needs no explanation, no argument. It only whispers. And when you are quiet enough to listen, you will know it never lies. If you feel uneasy, a vague discomfort in your chest, if there are subtle signs that something is wrong, trust that. Do not justify, do not ignore it just because you want to believe in another script, because you fear losing something you never truly had. When someone truly fits you, their presence will not subject you to constant inner conflict. You will not feel the need to change yourself to be loved, nor will you feel you must tiptoe as if walking on eggshells to avoid conflict. One of the clearest signs of a healthy relationship is a sense of peace. Peace, not because there are no challenges, but because you do not have to abandon yourself to stay. And this is where many people are mistaken. They believe true love must be intense, dramatic, filled with peaks of joy and valleys of pain. They confuse emotional intensity with genuine connection. But true connection is not in sudden fireworks. It lives in deep, quiet presence. It shows itself through freedom, mutual respect, and the capacity to be yourself without asking permission. If you look back over your life, you will surely remember times when you sensed someone was not right, that something was off, yet you chose to remain. Why? Because of fear of loneliness, the longing to be loved, the need to belong, things that can cost us our clarity. Jung would call this the unconscious repeating old patterns, trying to heal ununderstood wounds by reenacting them in new relationships. Have you ever wondered why some people step into your life right when you are on the verge of a major change? That is not accidental. Jung called it synchronicity, when the universe seems arranged to bring us not what we want, but what we need to grow. These people are not ideal halves in a romantic myth. They are the clear mirrors of what in us still waits to be healed. That is why instead of asking whether this person truly fits me, begin with a deeper question. What is this person's presence reflecting within me? If they make you more authentic, more courageous, if the relationship leads you to growth without making you lose yourself, then it is a connection of value. But if you feel exhausted, always battling yourself, if the attachment makes you doubt yourself and shrinks your soul, that is a clear sign this is not where you belong. Carl Jung believes life always offers experiences designed for our evolution. But whether we recognize the lesson in those experiences and whether we have the courage to decide from awareness rather than from fear is a choice that belongs to us. For true freedom begins where we dare to be honest with ourselves. If you find you are always the one who must try harder, always the one who clings, always chasing to maintain a relationship as if lost in a maze without exit, then it is time to stop and ask whether you are staying for love or merely for need. True love does not require you to trade away yourself to survive. It does not demand you endure endless trials or sacrifice your soul's essence in exchange for acceptance. Someone who fits you will not make you doubt your worth, nor place you in situations where you must choose between living true to yourself and being loved. True love is not a battlefield, nor an emotional equation where every step must be calculated. It is not a psychological game with validation as the prize. True love is presence, clarity, freedom, and lightness. It is a sense of peace you cannot explain, only feel. If you have ever encountered someone who made you feel you could be yourself, without fear, without armor, without hiding your dreams or shrinking your value, then you have stepped into a deep connection, a relationship that Jung would call harmony with your most authentic self. It is not dependency. It does not arise from a void needing to be filled. It is simply the natural companionship of two souls resonating on the same frequency, a frequency of sincerity, freedom, and health. But to get there, you must face one question. Am I willing to let go of what is no longer meant for me? The problem is not in finding the right person, but in whether you dare to let go of the wrong ones. Too many people keep clinging, persuading themselves that things will change, that if the other person alters just a little, love will be strong enough to overcome all. And then they trade away their youth, their growth, their chance to live honestly in order to keep something that is holding them back. Jung reminded us that no seed can grow in barren soil. If you keep watering a relationship that no longer nourishes you, the only outcome is erosion. But the moment you choose yourself, choose truth over blind hope, freedom over fear of loneliness, courage to release rather than straining to hold, something miraculous happens. The right people begin to enter your life, not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you have changed the frequency of your own vibration. And from that place, you begin to attract what truly matches you. So if you are now asking whether someone in your life is truly meant for you, do not rush to think about the fear of losing them. Do not dwell on what could have been. Listen to yourself. Do they bring you peace? Do you feel like yourself when you are with them? Do you feel supported and inspired to grow? Or are you straining to maintain something that was wrong from the roots? Love is not a battlefield. It should not be a war where you fight for scraps of understanding, scraps of validation, scraps of affection. When someone is truly for you, you will know, not because your mind nods, but because your heart no longer doubts. No need to force an understanding, no need to name it. You only need to feel, and you will know this is right. And if right now you feel that person has not yet appeared in your life, please do not despair. Do not rush to look outward for what you have not yet found within, because only when you truly choose yourself, when you learn to honor yourself without needing anyone to confirm it, when you stop craving love as a reward and begin to live as if you are already enough, then true love can appear, gentle, natural, and unforced. Carl Jung taught that the answers to our deepest restlessness do not lie in the outer world, but in the journey inward. And when you dare to undertake that journey, when you face yourself with honesty, everything in your life begins to arrange itself into a deeper, more harmonious order than you imagined. When the right person comes, you will know, not because they check off a list of criteria, nor because your rational mind grants permission, but because a very deep part within you will sense the rightness of that connection. It is not loud, not overwhelming, not a rush that sweeps you out of control. It is a quiet certainty, a peace that slips softly into your heart without needing any explanation. You will not feel you owe anything, nor feel compelled to sacrifice or contort yourself to sustain the bond. No more emotional acrobatics just to hold on to love. Everything will simply be flowing, natural, and wholesome. And most importantly, you will feel more yourself than ever. Carl Jung emphasized that true love is not possession or dependency. It is deep connection, joint maturation, and absolute respect for each other's nature. The one who fits will never ask you to abandon your dreams, change your values, or blur your authentic self to fit their world. On the contrary, they will lift you up, challenge you in healthy ways, and walk with you without making you live in fear of being abandoned or not good enough. A truly meaningful relationship has no place for power games, secret battles for attention or recognition. Instead, it is presence that is abundant, enduring, and unconditional. There is trust there, a profound sense of belonging, and a quiet understanding that you are loved not for what you strive to be, but for who you truly are. But the core truth to remember is that the right one appears only when you have done enough inner work to recognize them. If you are still caught in old emotional loops, still afraid, still seeking love as a way to heal, you may continue to attract relationships that reinforce that fear rather than help you move beyond it. Because life does not give you what you want, but what you are able to receive emotionally. And the deepest truth about love is that the healthier your relationship with yourself, the more clearly you will recognize who truly fits you. When you stop looking for someone to fill the void and instead focus on becoming full from within, you attract relationships born of resonance rather than from the fear of lack. So the next time you ask whether this is the one, pause, turn inward, and ask a more important question. Am I the one who fits myself? Because when you are, they will no longer be a riddle you must seek. They will recognize you as easily as you recognize them. And if at present you have not met them yet, that is not a problem. It is an opportunity. An opportunity to build the most important relationship you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. An opportunity to let go of what no longer fits, to live truthfully without fear of judgment, and to open your heart to what you truly deserve. Not because you have tried hard enough, but because you have finally become true enough. And then when the right person truly appears, you will know. There will be no more lingering anxieties, no more hovering doubts in the mind. You will not need to force anything to keep the connection alive, because that connection will unfold naturally, gently, and deeply, as if you were returning to a very familiar place, a place you have belonged to all along, which is a return to yourself. Amid all the clamor and chaos of the outer world, you will find a space where you need only be yourself. And that is love in its purest form, where there are no conditions, no roles, only the honest presence between two souls who respect, uplift, and truly see one another. If this message has touched you, if at any moment in these words you recognize your own journey, share that story. Perhaps you have found that person, or perhaps you are still on the path of discovery and healing. Wherever you are, your sharing may be the light, the hope someone out there needs to see today. And if you know someone who needs to hear these words, send them this message. Let us spread this reminder to those who need to remember that true love does not come from endurance, that a healthy relationship never demands you sacrifice yourself, and that the most important connection you can keep for life is the one between you and yourself. Thank you for being here, for listening, for daring to walk the path of self-discovery, a path not easy, but more worthy than anything else. And please remember this: When the right person truly comes, you will know. But before finding them, make sure you have found yourself. See you in the next journey, where we continue to step deeper into the art of growing up, awakening, and loving ourselves in the most sincere way.